Covenants, a word that often didn't go too well over Shadowlands development. However, regardless of your opinions, in this video we will cover all the things you need to know and everything that we'll get from Covenants, like its cosmetics, content, features and grinds. So we will discuss how you're going to be able to acquire Renown and what is it, Anima and the quote-unquote grinds again of this expansion, and explain how they work, along with of course the sources of Cosmetic Rewards, like its fantastic looking tier sets, cloaks, mounts and many more that are attached to those systems and currencies. Now, if you've been living under a rock, let's start with the basics. Feel free to skip with the various timestamps to the things that you want to know. What are the Covenants? What is Covenants? Covenants will be a huge part of Shadowlands, is where a lot of your in-game will surround upon, and it will be a faction of sorts that you will be able to pledge allegiance in Shadowlands once you reach level 60 and finish all the campaign quests. That's actually very important. Your endgame and choice is locked behind those two things. No point in rushing to level 60 if your campaign isn't actually done. You won't be able to partake in any endgame activities before you actually finish the campaign and then you choose your covenant. Each covenant is then tied to the 4 main zones in the game that you see while you are leveling from level 50 to 60, briefly introducing you to them. There's Bastion with the Kyrian, Maldraxxus, the Necrolords, Ardenweald with the Night Fae, and Ravendreath with the Venthyr. Through your leveling, you will experience some of these Covenant powers, themes and story, and see what's going on in this realm of death and the jailer and Anima droughts and all of that stuff. But as you reach max level and you finish the campaign, you must choose your purpose, as it's called in Orbus, our new fantastic looking capital, semi-permanently joining a specific covenant. Now, covenants have the same features and serve the same purpose across the board, no matter the one that you choose in the endgame. You will be choosing a specific one due to your cosmetic or thematic preference, or the class-based covenant ability or general player power that you will get and that we will discuss in a bit. So it's pretty personal, but also all depending on what type of player you actually are. Now, as you choose your covenant, you do have an interesting preview of what awaits you in a specific set covenant. You'll be able to visualize one of the 4 thematic sets you'll be able to collect, see the dedicated thematic mount, a small preview of the story of the covenant that you will follow through the covenant campaign, akin to the war campaign or the Order Hall campaign back in Legion. You also get a brief glimpse of that of the covenant campaign during your leveling, so it's kind of like an extension of that. The soulbinds that you will unlock, essentially a new simple talent tree full of passive gains resembling Azerite armor or your artifact weapon, but here it's in a character form, with each covenant having unique soulbinds and powers. Your weekly special covenant events that we're gonna discuss later, and of course your class ability or the covenant thematic ability, so it gives you a pretty good idea of what you're getting. It will also allow you to temporarily test those abilities at the nearby dummies, which can be useful. And while leveling, you will also be able to test these abilities in each of the respective zones of the ability and the covenant. These abilities resemble a last tier talent, alright? Sometimes changing a bit of your gameplay or simply adding another button to press, maybe improving multi-target or single target or damage, or adding a new cooldown with a thematic look based on the covenant. Now, I'm not gonna say what are all the different covenant abilities because there's way too many, but also it's a pretty personal choice and it will all depend on what type of player you are and how you play the game. The covenant's thematic ability, on the other hand, is a covenant specific power that everyone will get, no matter the class or spec or role. So you get Soul Shape for extra mobility with the Night Fae, turning you into a Vulpin, a little fox, with various other options of different animals that you will be able to transform 2, the Venthyr teleport, Door of Shadows, Fleshcraft for the Necrolords as an absorption shield, and a little steward for the Kyrian, allowing you to vendor items, change talents with a cooldown, play some tunes, which is pretty neat, and offer 3 powerful healing potions that also removes various debuffs. So there's a lot in this single Covenant decision, from player power, features, and cosmetics. So after choosing your preferred Covenant and going through a little contract-based like quests, granting you their power, binding the Covenant power to you, the Sanctum will then become available to you, your new home base, akin to the Order Halls. Elysium Hold as a floating fortress for the Kyrian, looking fantastic. Seat of the Primus for the Necrolords, more impressive on the outside than the inside, let's be honest. Heart of the Forest for the Night Fae, the largest of the Sanctums, as you get an entire tree and big courtyards to wander around, visually stunning. And Sinfall for the Venthyr, a hidden base deep in the cliffs of Castle Nathria in Ravendreth, with various levels, from a courtyard to the inside of the base itself with 2 levels. From there, you will conduct various operations to improve not only your Sanctum, but your zone. In Shadowlands, depending on what Covenant you pick, you will get various bonuses and benefits if playing in your said Covenant zone, making it feel more like home. You will also be quickly introduced to the many other sibling systems, like the New World Quest system, the Endgame Maw Zone, Torghast, our new big Visions-like feature, and the soul-binding process at the Forge of Bonds. All of these features and content will have follow-up guides to be covered more in depth up until release, okay? So subscribe to get that. I wanted to cover soulbinds and conduits here since they are technically part of your Covenant, but the video was already way too long, so the video on soulbinds should be out tomorrow or the day after as a follow-up. Now, these introductory quests can get quite lengthy, but luckily this only needs to be done once per account, as with alts, everything will be skippable. More on alt experience and catch-up and all of that on the timestamp down below. It will also quickly set you up for your Covenant campaign, but before going to the campaign and the Sanctum upgrades and all of that, we do need to discuss the various currencies, as they will provide better context. So, as you do these intro quests, you will notice you will be getting something called Renown. So what is that? Renown is your standing with your Covenant. It's a fancier reputation, but also it's essentially your new artifact Azerite power grind, but without being the infinite grind that it was. In fact, is more of a time-gated grind that is not time-consuming at all, at least not in the long run, and also resembling a lot like a battle pass. Various features, including soulbinds and their trait rows for the little passive talents, campaign, upgrading your Sanctum, upgrading PvP items, at least so far, flying achievements when Pathfinder kicks in later on, cosmetic rewards like mounts and transmog sets, and some other small things like stamina increases and some legendary unlocks will all be locked behind Renown levels. From your Covenant tab on your map or at the Sanctum itself on your specific Keeper of Renown, you'll be able to access your Renown progress and see all the rewards, what levels you need to get to with various other Covenant features like your followers and stuff like that we're going to talk about momentarily. So how do you get Renown? Renown will be obtainable through 2 simple ways. 1, doing the campaign quests, and 2, by doing 2 weekly quests. Gathering 1000 Anima for your Sanctum, we'll cover that momentarily as well, and gathering 20 souls from the Maw. Simple click X quests for the most part in the Maw endgame zone. That's your weekly grind done. You have 7 days to do that, which in total should only take you about 1 hour. It really is just a time-gating feature, in a way. Now, the campaign will also be locked behind some Renown levels, effectively time-gating what already is time-gated. I know, a bit of a headache, but as long as you do the weekly quests, the campaign quests, and everything else unlocks quite precisely. So for an example, you do get campaign quests which take place after the first raid, Castle Nathria. The story takes place, the story and the quests take place after. But of course, the Renown required will align after the raid is released, meaning you should expect to be doing the Covenant campaign quests for about 7 to 9 weeks. Progressively, it's not something you can get out of the way immediately, and since they reward Renown as well, it's something you should do since they offer player power through the soulbinds, as soulbind traits and the conduit slots will open up at different level brackets according to your Renown. Again, I will refer you to my soulbinds video, which should be up pretty soon if you are confused by any of this soulbind business. Another great thing about Renown over regular artifact power or Azerite power, it has a limit. There is actually a cap of 40. All the rewards, be player-based or otherwise, end at level 40. So it's 100% finite. Don't have to grind indefinitely. Now, there is a possibility that as more patch content rolls out in the future, some new rewards come for higher Renown to keep you on the treadmill grind and so on. But as it stands, at 40, it ends. You cannot get any more Renown. You don't need to get any more Renown, even though you can still do the quests. Now, there are, of course, various other rewards tied to Renown and the campaign from your Milestone Battle Pass tab thing. Again, this is the same for every covenant, only changes are aesthetic ones or the soulbind characters. So let's talk about what probably most of you want to know outside of player power, how you can get that mount an awesome looking transmog set or cloak. Well, the first thing you need to know is that those mounts, cloaks, tier sets, and thematic weapons, which don't get mentioned as much, that you've seen around probably, actually have 4 variants, all coming from different content inside of your covenant. So there's quite a lot of them. There's a tint that comes from the Renown levels, as you can see on the screen, taking you a couple of weeks to reach. That then, when you reach that Renown level, you may simply buy from the Renown Quartermaster with Anima. So this is a pure transmog item with no stats. There's another tint you get from the Covenant campaign itself progressively through the various chapters, quests, or bots if the various campaign chapters are completed, much like the Order Hall set. However, they are inherently time-gated by Renown as well. These ones are actually items with stats. So this set is actually the primary set of your Covenant. The tier set bonus is just small power buffs, don't expect it to top raid gear, but you can also decide to upgrade it the item level with Anima if you so wish to closely compete with entry-level normal raid gear, thereabouts. But once again, it's gated by your campaign quests to upgrade to the higher levels, and then in turn is time gated by Renown and how you acquire that on that weekly basis, and so on and so forth. The other 2 remaining tints will then come from your special Covenant-specific weekly events that we're gonna discuss momentarily, purchasable with Anima as well, simply from a vendor at a high cost. And the final 4th tint is from a specific feature depending on your covenant. So for an example, the Night Fae will come from the Anima Conductor rank 2. We will discuss what the Anima Conductor actually is, but this will basically open up new daily quests and in turn a new reputation that at Exalted it will allow you to simply buy the final tint with Anima, much like the Renown tint. So it's likely the hardest to get, and you can see on the screen there where this is located. For the Venthyr will be based on the Teleportation Network rank 3. So like the Night Fae, we will discuss what the Teleportation Network is just in a few minutes, but like the Fae, this will open up the possibility to fix up these teleportation mirrors, leading you to secret places around Ravendreth, and get that final tent in a form of a drop, likely from mobs or chests. Progressively. I will see if I can put up a video at a later date putting out where all of these locations are. As for the Necrolords, I haven't been able to find out for sure where they could be from, but it's likely from calling chests, the emissary chests, so pretty random drops. And finally, the Kyrian, both of them seem to come from their unique feature, Path of Ascension, that again we can talk about later on. One set, one tent, seems to be at a random drop from the event itself as a reward from a chest, and the other you can simply buy directly from a vendor later on as you upgrade your Path of Ascension feature, so pretty straightforward. As for the very famous thematic cloak pieces we saw way back at Shadowlands reveal, will work much in the same, as will the weapons and mounts. Renown levels, the campaign, your specific Covenant event feature, so on. There's also a little progression system, sort of, with the mounts that you get get, as at first you get the bare bones version, and then later on towards, say, the end of the campaign or the higher renown levels, you will get the armored version, which is super cool, and they all look pretty goddamn badass. So if you love chasing after cosmetics, yeah, covenants are pretty great for you. Just bear in mind that all of these thematic things are bound to a covenant, so you cannot say, for an example, have a character that has the Necrolords set or the mount and use on alt, which is Venthyr, okay? You can only use the same things if you are part of that covenant. Now, there's a lot more, and there's more yet to discuss, but for that we need to discuss the Sanctum upgrades, the Sanctum buildings. So Renown levels will also unlock the ability to upgrade and unlock various Sanctum activities or buildings, kind of like garrisons, costing not only Renown levels to unlock, but Anima and Souls to actually build them. So what is Anima and Souls, first of all? I mentioned Anima quite a bit as a currency. You can buy various items. So what is it? Well, Anima is yet a new currency, and though it may lead you to believe it's the new AP, it's actually war resources. Various Covenant rewards will cost them, as we covered. There's a weekly quest that tasks you to get it for Renown, but in the end, yeah, they are just resources. From your Covenant Sanctum, you will have something called the Anima Reservoir. As you can see here, it has this big orb that is very flashy. Anima is what powers everything in the Shadowlands, lore-wise, so getting it is a big deal. Now, how can you actually get Anima? Well, much like you otherwise would get war resources. So everything from random dungeons, from your weekly cache or vault, from Mythic Plus, PvP, rares, treasures, world quests, almost all content will offer Anima. The biggest chunks will come instead from callings, which are our new emissaries. So Anima will be plenty-ish, but you do need to manage, at least at first, where you want to prioritize your Anima. But for the most part, Anima is not tied to player power directly. It's more for fun things to fill your time and just upgrade your Sanctum to do some fun things, and that's really about it. There's not really player power attached to that. That is only on Renown. Now, callings have some differences over regular emissaries, as they have the benefit of offering a variety of different objectives, like the 8.3 assaults in Battle for Azeroth. Instead of always do for world quests, sometimes is to get rare items. Other times is to go to the mall and get Stygia, which is the specific currency there that we're going to discuss in a specific video. Other times is to fill the bar in the specific Shadowlands zone, and dungeons do count to fill that bar, so they also can work a bit like a daily dungeon. So callings won't get as old as quick, which is great, with the rewards being, again, gear, like catch-up gear and stuff like that, entry-level gear, conduits for your soulbinds, again, specific video on that if you don't know what those are, or items for you to sell, just gray items for you to sell that earn a big chunk of gold. But having the downside of working like a daily that you need to pick up every day at your Sanctum and then deliver at your Sanctum again at the NPCs. The same also follows for Anima and Souls as a currency. You will get it from the stated sources in the open world, in the variety of content, but they come in an item-like form that you need to backtrack to your Sanctum and apply it to your reservoir. Souls will then come from the maw. Now again, we won't get too much into the maw in this video, but to gather souls, you simply click the X things again, and you're gonna get them to a little soul keeper that you have, that you need to bring back to the soul warden at your Sanctum, just like Anima. He will then release them, and they will be added to your currency tab in order for you to upgrade your Sanctum. So yeah, that's all of your currencies. That has a lot of backtracking and movement going about, but that's how it works currently. What about the Sanctum upgrades that heavily costs these said currencies? Well, the first one you're going to notice is a teleportation network that will be unique to each covenant, that as you upgrade, you will get higher and higher tiers with more areas to teleport to, up to rank 3. The Venthyr will get various mirror portals around the zone, unlocked through simple go there and click quests, with the higher ranks unlocking more mirrors. The Night Fae get the Mushroom teleportation network that may even give you access to floating islands around Ardenweald wield that is not accessible till flying, so you may find some secrets there. The Necrolords get portals to the various Maldraxi houses, and the Flying Fortress, like Nextramas, around Maldraxxus. And the Kyrian gets extra fly paths that move much quicker, but also having the benefit of using your steward like a whistle, planting a teleportation beam, Star Trek style, that you may use with a daily cooldown. Speaking of which, we don't have a whistle in Shadowlands, only these teleportation networks. You will also get the Anima Conductor building, which will allow you to funnel Anima from your Sanctum Conductor to various areas around your Covenant Zone for about 50 Anima. So pretty cheap, at least currently, with the higher tiers of the Anima Conductor unlocking more areas for you to funnel Anima to. Basically, this will allow you to funnel Anima every day. That little beam will last for 24 hours, resetting the next day. This will then unlock an extra temporary world quest or an extra treasure or an extra rare elite to kill for some rewards like gear, catch-up gear, conduits, or reputation, or more Anima, maybe achievements. So very simple, extra optional content that may reward you with something that you want. And as you connect more and more points every day, you will feel this bar down below. Once at 10, you may reinforce a single point to stay up permanently. So it's a system that will take a little while to progress, just like your Renown time getting, but it is finite, so all that extra world content will be permanently unlocked in the future. We also get an unlock, a building for our new adventure table or the command table, with subsequent tiers improving the adventures. Now, the table missions changed a bit, but is what you can expect. They have a bit more RPG elements, I know it's such a meme, but there's more attacks and counters, so it is what it is, but most of us can agree we will probably just use an add-on and get it over with. Rewards are what you can expect: gold, reputation, Anima, and so on. So something you're probably going to do every day. Just go there, click some things, and get on with your day, or maybe just play it on your phone. As for unlocking the characters, the adventurers, is more in vein of WoD than it is Battle for Azeroth or Legion. So you will get them more in the open world, through the Covenant campaign, Renown levels, quests, soulbind characters that you unlock, and in Torghast, from these island expeditions like quests. I will refer you to my Torghast video that should be up anytime soon, but there on your various runs, a Covenant character may pop up with a quest, and if you rescue it, it will join your roster. Pretty simple. Then of course we have the little Covenant fun activity to unlock in your Sanctum Upgrades. These have more tiers to upgrade, up to rank 5 instead of the rank 3 that all the other buildings features have, and they are far more expensive on Anima and souls to upgrade. Each activity is unique to each Covenant, so let's address them all, starting with the Abomination Factory, the stitching for the Necrolords. Here you will be able to create abominations, among other cosmetics, much like the Mechagon Crafter. No player power involved here at all, much like the Anima currency and all of that, with the various upgraded tiers unlocking more and more abominations for you to create, to a point you have a huge armada. So how do you craft them? Well, through a resource called Malleable Flesh, which will drop from practically anything in the Shadowlands. This is much like a profession material. They will drop from mobs, dungeons, chests, whatever you can think of, they will drop from there. And with that, you'll be able to create abominations that will offer you weekly quests, hence why sometimes this event is labeled as a weekly event. These quests will then be a little bit silly, as you will get the abomination as your pet, and a special ability that you may use, like a movement speed as he carries you on his shoulders, or serving as a vendor, and so on. Each abomination has a unique ability. The quest will then reward you with superior parts, allowing you to craft fancier and more unique powerful abominations, or parts of the previously mentioned Covenant Transmog set, the other tint. You may also create cosmetics to dress up your abomination if you so wish, with items found in the open world, or an entirely new mount, not the Covenant mount, and pets and so on. Even an innkeeper to cook for your little factory area. So it's a little fun system, completely separate from everything else in the game, that you can spend some time doing any time of day, like farming flesh, or on a weekly basis for the quest once the abominations are created for the superior parts. And all the other Covenant activities will follow suit. So for the Kyrian, you get the Path of Ascension, this sort of gladiator arena that you will use your soulbinds as a vehicle to fight enemies. Think of it a bit like the Brawlers Guild, but again with these vehicle-like characters. As for the people that you will fight, the challengers, you will get through various quests in the open world that you may begin after creating a specific item at the nearby crafter. So much like the Stitching Abomination Factory, you will get specific materials all around the Shadowlands zones, but unlike malleable flesh, each of these items are tied to each zone, so you will need to target the ones that you need, like I need ingots, so I need to go to Raven's Wrath, and I need feathers, so I need to go to Bastion. Once you have the ones that you need for an item that you may want to create, you will be able to start up a quest and unlock the challenger to fight through this small chain-like quest. You will also craft various equipment for your soulbinds, so they gain new abilities to use, as many challengers may be tough or impossible to beat without these abilities, without these upgrades, like a sprint or a dash to run away from a nasty attack since they slow you. Some may even get easier with different soulbind characters, so you will need to progress the campaign and Renown to unlock them, so time-gated. Unlike any other event, Path of Ascension will also have a currency to be able to enter the matches called the Medallion of Service, obtained through some crafted items that you begin the challenger quest with, or through the calling chests. As for rewards, again, you get the Covenant tier set, among other goodies. The Night Fae Garden, or the Queen Conservatory, will then be different from any other activity. Here, you will get a garden resembling the Pandaria Tillers with the upgraded tiers, unlocking extra spots of land, with two things you will be able to plant: spirits that you nurture back into shape, and catalysts that will improve the set souls as they grow in these pots for the next 24 hours or more. So these spirits are themed around each of the covenants: red for Venthyr, blue for Kyrian, and so on, with rarities from green to epic, and will be obtained from various quests offered here and on a weekly basis through satchels as you do this event. But how does this actually all works? Well, the idea with this, especially as you unlock the higher tiers to grow your garden so you get more plots and stuff, the goal is to plant the various spirits that we mentioned in the pots. They will grow for a few days, sometimes 24 hours, sometimes 4 days, sometimes 2, so on. Once their time is up, they will offer you a chest containing various profession materials, and at random cosmetic items resembling island gear, pets, or even mounts themed around the spirit that you planted. But more importantly, you have a degree of agency of what loot you will get from these chests, and that's where catalysts will come in. Before planting the spirit in the pod, you may plant catalysts in between them, linking the various pods. These catalysts may increase the quality of your rewards, so maybe giving you a higher chance at amount, for an example, or increasing the quantity of the rewards, or both if a specific pod has more than one catalyst plot linked to it. For the most part, you will get a lot of profession materials, right? That again, you may choose to either focus on rarity or quantity. Like say you want a lot of enchanting dust or regular skinning items or meats for cooking. You would simply plant catalysts around the pot of the spirits that you are growing that increase the wield around that pot. Or maybe you want shards or more rare materials. So you would use a catalyst that improves the quality of the items that spirit may offer to you. Maybe if there's an extra plot of land of catalysts, you may increase the yield as well a bit with the specific catalyst. So there's actually some decisions here to make. Do you plant a spirit or a catalyst? And when you plant a spirit, what type of catalyst you use to improve the rewards. And then, as you get more plots, as you get more pots and spirits to plant, you will be mixing and matching everything to just maximize this, essentially, to get the most out of it. So it's a pretty cool, chill piece of content, just planting things, working out what you want with RNG chance of getting some collectibles and some valuable things like profession materials. But of course, at the start, it's pretty limited when you literally only have like one pod and one catalyst plot to use. At Tier 5, when everything is open up, the garden here will also unlock a legendary spirit, which after a few enduring quests will grant you weekly quests as well, granting you more spirits or catalysts for you to plant. And lastly, there's the Ember Court event. So much like the past activities, this will be a pretty simple party that you'll be able to throw as a Venthyr member. So how are you gonna go about doing that? Well, the party itself, it's weekly based, so you only can do it once per week. And the goal here, before the party, before actually throwing the party, is similar to the Kyrian or the Necrolords event. You will need to unlock guests, entertainment, and refreshments. That will be unlocked through simple quests and at various tier levels or Sanctum Upgrades or other quests that may upgrade your party, the courtyard of the party. Some guests may even be locked behind the campaign and in turn Renown, or general side quests, so you cannot get them all right away. They are pretty simple quests, and there's a variety of quests from people you meet in your Shadowlands adventures to Lady Vash. The entertainment will be a minigame of sorts inside the party itself, and there's 3 minigames that once again are obtained through quests, and the refreshments are dedicated to the mood of the party, also unlocked through quests, and they may need to be filled up through profession materials and infused rubies, which is a currency specific to Revendreth. So the prep is pretty straightforward. You unlock those bits progressively, you can work on those any time of the day, and then once you are all prepared, you select what you want to have in your party and you're gonna start it. So how about the party itself, the event itself, how does it work? Well, it's a clicking minigame 80% of the time. So the party will have a couple of requirements depending on your guests. You may have a guest that likes a formal party, or messy, or clean. And so you're gonna have to decide how to go about it for the whole 5 minutes that it lasts. Dragging bars, either to the left or right, overall is mostly clicking things. Want the party clean? Click the rebels. Want a formal party? Click refreshments like the tea and offer them to the guests. Click on the guests to talk and have a formal conversation. Maybe some guests will like the party to be a bit wild, so you will get into some combat. And that's the most simple way I can put it. It's very simple and straightforward. Now there are various little mini events around the party that you may partake, especially for achievements, like letting a giant throw you and drive the crowd mad, or dressing up in silly apparels to fill up the mood bar in a specific way. And then there's the entertainment, which again is a minigame inside a minigame like Condemning Souls, with little dialogues and some little buttons for you to click with a couple of decisions to decide the fate of a soul depending on how they were in life, if they were greedy, if they were vengeful, and so on, and filling the bar depending on what you choose and your guests and so on. So it can be somewhat fun, but will be highly dependent and subjective on what you define as fun. Personally, I prefer the prep of getting guests and entertainment and so on to the actual party itself. The rewards are all the same as the past activities, just cosmetic things, but unlike the other activities, you do have a reputation dedicated to the Ember Court itself with a full-fledged vendor, like the Renown vendor offering the Covenant's different tint, mounts, and a variety of other cosmetics like pets, toys, and so on. But you do need to grind that rep up with more and more parties, so it's more deterministic than, say, the Fey Garden. So yeah, that covers everything you should know about Covenants and their specific systems, currencies, events, and cosmetic rewards. Then to finish off, what if you want to switch Covenants, and what about alts? How does this work with alts and catch-up? Well, switching Covenants is actually pretty straightforward. It's a simple yet a time-consuming process, as you're going to lose a lot of the progress in the meantime, since nothing carries over when switching Covenants, like say Renown, and Renown is tied to a lot of the content in Covenants and player power and so on, even though there's going to be some catch-up mechanisms. That said, all your progress is saved, so nothing is lost if you're going back to a Covenant you previously were in. So to change Covenants, simply go back to Orbus, talk to the respective NPC, and then simple. However, to go back to the Covenant you were previously in will then task you with a 2-week-long quest of filling the bar, like a big world quest. Yeah, hence very time consuming. So one thing you can do is change Covenants just before the reset. You work towards that bar, you fill up that bar, and then once the reset kicks in, you get the second part of the quest, you fill that bar, and you are back in your Covenant. But again, you do have to plan around all of that, and again, it's not something you should be doing all the time, let's be honest. As for the alt experience with Covenants, it's pretty interesting, as when you reach the Shadowlands at level 50, you will be given a choice to level through the Threads of Fate system or the normal leveling experience with the main campaign that you did on your main. This will allow you to immediately jump to the endgame sort of and join a Covenant at level 50, get the abilities and go to any zone you want, doing quests and world quests and bonus objectives to get things like Anima to use at max level while leveling. You may also change to the Threads of Fate at any time, so you can decide to do normal leveling experience, but if you get tired at say level 54 or something, you can just go back to Orbos to talk to the Fate Scribe that initially offered you the Threads of Fate option and change to that leveling path. But you cannot go back to the normal leveling experience once you are inside the Threads of Fate phase, basically, so choose carefully. As for the Renown catch-up, both for alts or when changing Covenants, these will come from most content in the game, like calling chests, dungeons, raids, or PvP, so you'll get extra Renown badges, essentially, to fill up your Renown quicker so you can catch up with everyone else, so pretty straightforward to keep, everyone in the same playing field. So alts will be pretty great in Shadowlands, especially to see the other Covenants, as long as the Renown catch-ups are worth it, because a lot is bound to Renown, especially Soulbinds, as we will see in our next video. So anyway guys, that covers all that you need for Covenants and their Sanctums and their rewards and all of that. Hope it helps, especially to get those rewards, and as always, thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to get all the other guides, there's about 4 of them to come out, and I'll see you all next time.